What's up, guys? It's Jim from Russell Wellbeing here. Welcome back to a brand new episode of The Unseen Battles, where my guest today is a phenomenon. He is one of the most creative UK wrestlers on the scene at the moment in time. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the Dark Manipulator. He's the Redeemed. He is the current NSAW Euroclass champion, a former NSAW Tag Team champion, and a former UKW Around the Clock champion. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my honoured guest at this time, Mr. Remus Caine. Remus, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm just happy to be here, ready for the questions to come. Looking forward to it.
As am I, my good friend. So, obviously, Remus, the first time that I actually saw you in person was at WrestleBration Aftermath last year, where you were in a fatal four-way hardcore match with Mr. Matty.
So, yeah, I think you're on about Buckshot Buckley. What's his name? Danny Missing and
Danny Missing.
Oh God, he's gonna kill me for forgetting his name. But he's current UK wrestling tag team champion at the moment with Tommy Dillon and Rex Savage. CJ Calhoun. There we go.
That's the one. I'm glad you remembered because I completely went blank there.
No, it's fine. I can barely remember things, so I'm surprised I even remembered names and all that. But that was a good match, so of course I was going to remember.
Definitely. I think that when myself, Liam, and my wife Shannon did the review for that show, I think we said that you guys were very close second to the match of the night for your guys' match.
Wow, I'm honoured that we were even considered because with any match I put myself into, I always keep in mind whereabouts we are on the card, but also what the stipulation is, because if it's a hardcore match like it was then, you can't really afford to hold back. And I'd like to think that it showed on that particular night when we were going through that match together. And yeah, if anything, I like hardcore matches because you can be creative with them. I just don't get to do them that much, which is a shame, but at the same time, you've got to be aware of your audience as well. And not every match you do needs to be a hardcore match.
Absolutely, buddy. Absolutely. So, one of the main reasons why I wanted to get you on today, Remus, is that when you made your entrance, and what really spoke to me is that the character that you portray as Remus Caine, it really shows that, if I'm right in this, that you take quite a bit of inspiration from Bray Wyatt. Is that true?
You wouldn't be incorrect by saying Bray Wyatt. If anything, the way I imagine it is it's not the same person, so to speak. The way I explain it is that Remus Caine is actually two people, which explains both the heel and the face gimmick. It just depends on, at that time, which part of the mind is actually in control. So you could argue it's more of a Finn Balor and the demon sort of deal, but in this case, the demon isn't just a savage creature. It is its own personality with its own goals, its own motives, and its own way of going about things. That's why I think when Tommy Dillon coined the Dark Manipulator for that side of Remus Caine, I thought that does sum it up quite well, especially when you look at the past of that branch of Remus Caine.
Absolutely, bud. Absolutely. I
think you've cut out. Your mic's cut out. Yeah, it's gone. It's all good. Technical difficulties are the worst things to happen.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, yes.
Fantastic. Sorry about that, folks. So The other reason why I wanted to get on especially is because when you made your entrance, the first thing my wife Shannon said to me as she turned to me was, "I love the character. I want to know the reasons behind it and the reasons why," sort of thing. So we will get into that a little bit later on. She also then said to me at the end of the night, "That Remus Caine's my favorite wrestler at the minute." So
I'm honored. If you are watching, thank you. That means a lot. I'm always happy whenever somebody's a fan of my particular style of wrestling. It gives me quite a lot of honor to know that. So thank you. That's all I have to say, really.
I'll make sure to pass on that thanks from you, Remus. So can you take us back, Remus? What initially drew you to professional wrestling itself? Is it something that you've wanted to do ever since you were a child, or is it something that you sort of discovered later on?
So when I was, and actually, funnily enough, wrestling has, looking back on it, always tied in with my mental health.
Hmm.
Because when I first started watching wrestling, I'd obviously seen bits of WWE during
Hmm.
the late 2000s and early 2010s, and I knew about it. I knew about professional wrestling. I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. And then I heard all of the criticisms that everyone throws at it, the really generic stuff that doesn't need to go through this. And it's like, oh, okay. Um, then I am a bit of an insomniac, so it's actually quite hard for me to sleep most
Hmm.
of the time. So there I was during a school night, and I saw TNA pop up on one of the channels I was scrolling through. So okay, I'll give it a try. So there I was about 3 o'clock in the morning, 3 hours before I was supposed to be awake to go to school. And I was watching TNA back when Bully Ray, Suicide, Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy were running around, making TNA great, AJ Styles and such. And I thought, okay, this is pretty cool. I'm not sure I could ever do it, but I like watching it. Skip forward a bit further into the future. I knew some people who did backyard wrestling, and not something I ever thought I'd do, but they encouraged me. I tried it out. You know, I wasn't great at wrestling, but nobody particularly is in the backyard. But they said I've got a great character that I put in some really good promos and got promo skill, and I think that's a lot to do with my theatre kid performing arts days. Eventually, my first actual tag team partner, he encouraged me to go into training and said, "You've got the gift of the mic. Why don't you actually put in some effort, go to training, go and see if you can actually do it?" So there I go. I My first ever training session was at Steel City School of Wrestling, which is in Sheffield. Is run by Adam and Vicky Kilby. So I consider them my first ever mentors. And it was the hardest thing I'd ever done, but it was the most rewarding thing I'd done. And I remember the next time I saw my tag team partner at that time, and he said, "I want to see what you can do." I out wrestled him, uh, and he was shocked. He put in a word for me at UK Wrestling not long after that, and I might have got a bit zealous with some promos I threw, but that's another thing. And
Hmm.
eventually, I find myself in a situation where my first ever match with them was a 2-on-1 handicap inside a steel cage with him, and we were against the Necessary Evil Palmer.
Hmm.
And that was one of the first matches I remember doing. I'd also had some training at Pursuit Pro Wrestling at this point, but this was when they were really early um,
Hmm.
in their career. But that was my journey to becoming a wrestler, and it's just been getting bigger and bigger since that point, I think.
Fantastic. So obviously you mentioned going to Steel City Wrestling. Can you describe that first training experience for us? What was it like when you first stepped into the ring?
I won't lie, it was tough because the ring that they had wasn't actually a wrestling ring; it was a boxing ring that they'd put like thin crash mats onto.
Mhm.
And I remember running the ropes, and the first thing I did when I got back was I looked at my back and I thought, "Oh my god, look at these bruises," and that was just from the ropes. And the amount of cardio that I understood I had to increase to be able to get to that level, to be able to do even just a 10-minute match, if that, it was an eye opener. But at the same time, seeing people pushing you as well as I think I was pushing others as well, it felt like a community where I actually felt like I belonged, and I don't want to forget that feeling because it was one of the best feelings I ever had. It felt like I was a part of something big. And yeah, it's not the WWE or AEW or anything like that, but it meant a lot to me because I was learning something new and I was actually enjoying it for the first time in my life. This was something where I actually afterwards thought, I want to do this for the rest of my life. And if I can, I want to turn this into my career. This is what I want to do. I don't want to do any other job. This is all I ever want to do.
Absolutely, my friend. So, what was it like when you took that first bump? I've had a couple of the guests that I've had on. They said that it's either the worst pain or it's the best feeling that they've ever had. Where would you say that it is on the scale for you?
I would say it was a mix of the first ever proper bump I had inside the ring. I think I'd winded myself, but I was that full of adrenaline at the time. I didn't even care. Yes, it hurt, but it's like I'd already, in terms of being outside of the ring, I'd already landed on much harder surfaces. I'd been thrown on like hard floors, on hard mats. I'd even took some bumps on like hard concrete ground. Um, Not a smart thing, I admit. Don't do that, people. Not fun. But that bump made me realize that this is what it's going to feel like for the rest of my life. And I do not want to lose that amongst anything else. That feeling is going to be with me all the way to the end. And it's a reminder of how many more I've got, well, in my life, really. This is what I want to do. And I will miss that feeling if there comes a time, when there comes a time that I can't do this anymore. But until then, I'm going to enjoy every single bump I can get.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, whether it be from Steel City, SPW here in Barnsley, or from UKW in Batley, what would you say is the greatest piece of advice that you've received from a trainer?
Hmm. I could go through a list of the obvious ones. So obviously there's increasing your cardio, there's communication, such like that. And I'm gonna go for something slightly different. One of the best pieces of advice I'd got, and this relates to just technical and grappling in the ring and just being in the ring in general, is twofold. Being creative with your holds, but also being aware of where all the cameras are
Hmm.
and where the audience is all at once. Because there's nothing worse, and I've seen this happen before. I've been guilty of it. When you're watching something either on YouTube or on TV, and you see the action, but you can't see the emotions on someone's face, on the wrestler's face when they're in the ring because they've got the back to you. Inevitably, there is going to be a time where you're going to have your back to the camera, but that should only be when you're doing a spot or doing your actual wrestling in the moment. It shouldn't be for when the camera needs to see your reaction. Say, for
Hmm.
instance, when somebody kicks out of a really big move, if the camera's there to zoom in on your face to see your reaction to that happening, or to see your reaction when you finally pin someone and you become the next champion, that that is a moment that not only you are going to remember, but it needs to be a moment that everyone else will remember. And if the only memory is that they're seeing the back of your head or your back when this is happening, they can't invest in your character enough. And when I say being creative in the ring, I'm also being talking about not just with your wrestling, but also with your character. Don't have to rush through everything. I level this criticism at a few people, but I'm not naming names in particular. I think it's something that's just happened especially in the super indie pro scene, is where it's just fast, 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 move, 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 fast, 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 fast. It has its moments, but slow it down. Not everyone is a massive cardio machine who can go through that. Slow it down so the audience can actually see what's happening, register what's happening, take the time to appreciate what's actually being put in front of them. Otherwise, they're going to be overblown by what they're seeing. And if your response is, oh, well, they just need to keep up, well, you're not really thinking about the audience. You're thinking about yourself. And it's an ego thing. Egos are needed in wrestling, but it's not just about you. It's about you, who you're performing with, the ref, people on the camera, people in the recording studio, people who are doing the music, the audience themselves. It's about everyone in that moment. We're all cogs. And if one cog's not doing its part, the other cogs are going to feel it. But that's like my overall biggest piece of advice. I guess you can say that it's all into one. Oh, it's sorry, your mic's got out again.
Again.
There we go. Get you back.
There we go. So what would you say has been some of the most memorable moments or matches in your career so far?
So I know this is one that we're actually going to come back to. It's actually, I had a match at Firestar Championship Wrestling. This was in Ripon at the time. It was against young Horace. And if he's watching, he already knows what this is about. We had a no ropes match, because the build-up going into this is the match that we had before that. I was using the ropes to choke him out. And the story is that management decided that we needed to have our match, get rid of the ropes so that they couldn't be used as a weapon against each other. In hindsight, it affects Horace's character more than mine, because I'm a brawler. I don't need to use the ropes. Horace is a lot more agile, a lot more athletic, kind of uses the ropes a bit more. But a lot of people said it's probably one of the best matches that we've put on in Firestar, and for me, it was one of the best matches I put on in general. There's loads of different matches, but I think that one in particular is the match I'm going to think of when it's the one that stays right here in my heart. There's multiple reasons, but a lot of that I think I'm going to have to explain later on as to why it's there.
Absolutely. So, who would you say are some of the wrestlers that have inspired you throughout your journey so far?
Well, in terms of like the bigger stage, in terms of influencing my character and how I wrestle, at the time, it would have been Randy Orton, Bray Wyatt, and Dean Ambrose at that moment when I first brought the character into light, or as we now call him, Jon Moxley. Randy, because of his very psychological, tactical, slow-paced method of beating someone down. Bray, because he's the cult leader, the supernatural phenomenon that can both manipulate those around him and freaks everyone out. And then Dean Ambrose, because it's a lot more up close, personal, gets in your business, beats you down. But in terms of the wrestlers that I've been around, a wrestler who's actually influenced me quite a lot, and that's because I think we've faced each other so many times, is Tommy Dillon. I've said he was actually one of the ones that I cut an impromptu promo on when I first came into the business. I probably shouldn't have done in hindsight, but looking back, it's funny. And he's one of my fight forever opponents. And every time we've wrestled, we've always done a better match than the last and a better match than the last. And he's inspired me to keep getting better. Another wrestler who recently inspired me just to keep improving my game was who I faced at Wrestling for Kirkwood Hospice, the most recent one, which is Disciple, because I was using techniques and moves in that match that I hadn't used before. Like I'd never done a buckshot over the ropes. I'd never done a what is it called now? I think it was a tilt-a-whirl head scissors. And that was just inspiring me to go on and do more from that. I want to learn more and add it to my arsenal. But I suppose the cop-out answer would also be it's everyone who I've been in the ring and worked alongside, because each one of them has given me something to think about, given me something to improve upon, given me something to work with, whether it was Gung Ho Muttley, Sammy Blue, Young Horace, but everyone and anyone that I've ever faced, each one has added to who I am and to what I bring to the table.
Fantastic, mate. Thanks so much for that answer. So, obviously, at the top of the show, I listed your accolades, and they're quite impressive. How would you say that you prepare for those types of big matches, both physically and mentally?
Well, I have to take each one differently, because I didn't know on the night for the Round the Clock Championship that I was going to be getting the title until I arrived at the venue. And it's funny because it was back when you could win the title. I think Horace has brought the rules back, where it's you don't have to be in a match to be pinned for the title. You can be pinned anywhere. It's like the hardcore title or the 24/7 championship when that was a thing. And I remember just being told on the night, right, you're winning that title. All right, okay, I'm winning the title. And this was against one of the best wrestlers that I've ever faced. I had a cracking match with him at Blackheart not too long after that. Multiple matches, actually, for the Blackheart title. It was Billy O'Keefe. So I hadn't gotten over the fact that I was still becoming champion that night, especially really early on. I know it's like the around-the-clock title, but it was a title, and it was the first one I'd ever received. And I'll always be thankful to UK Wrestling for that. So there I was, just in the back. I was like, can't believe this is actually happening. Can't believe this is actually happening. I get the cue to go out. It's like, it's happening. So there I run out, big boot, taken down, running knee from a tag partner, takes him down. Pin, 1, 2, 3, done. Got the title in my hands. I was like, it's here. I actually have this in my hands. Wow. I know people say that titles are prop, but I also think that it's what you make of it as well. Because I remember that I managed to defend it against, funnily enough, Horace not too long after, and then I was cutting some slightly funny promos, one where I was in bed with it around my arms like this, and I just kept opening my eye, just checking to see that there was nobody there to pull a fast one on me, and then getting some wrestlers to stalk me on the train whilst I was carrying the title with me. But it was hard to prepare for that because, like I said, I didn't know it was going to happen until the night. As for the other two, the Euroclass Championship was a swan song of NSAW at the time, because that was the last show that we were running. It was the last pay-per-view, and it was mostly because I had to go and focus on my family, my wife, my daughter. I couldn't pool both things with my money. I had to choose one or the other, and I chose my family. So that was more bittersweet, because I didn't actually want to put the title on myself, but I wanted the title to at least be somewhere safe, to be back home where I could trust it being there, so that when I actually do open it back up, which is hopefully on the cards at some point, the first thing I'm going to do is give it back. I don't need it. Somebody else needs it, but it's just in safe hands for the moment. I'm still probably going to do things with it. Just hoping it's not got anything more to do with me. As for the tag team titles, like I said, I knew it was going to happen, but I did it less for me. I actually did it more for my faction at the time, the Society, especially for Callum Jakester, or as he's been known now as Callum Pierce, because he deserved it. End of the day, he deserved that title, that shot, and it was more rewarding to see him and his reaction than it was for me to see my own, because it was all about him and everyone else who was in a faction, because it was Freebird rules. And the way I'm looking at it at the moment is I've not fully felt that particular feeling and being able to describe it fully, to know that I'm going into a show where I'm winning the title, because it's something I've yet to earn, but I'm going to earn it best I can. Oh, hello. I think we've got a guest here. Hello. Sorry about that.
That's no problem. No problem whatsoever. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really do appreciate that. It's really brilliant to hear that side of your story. So, what would you say have been some of the biggest challenges that you've faced in your career so far, aside from mental health?
It's more managing the time between wrestling and my personal life. At one point, it wasn't a problem because it was just me. I didn't need to worry about anybody else but me at that point. But then, obviously, Jenny came into my life, Lily came into my life, and I have to be not just aware, I have to be responsible with how I manage my time. And there have been times where I have turned down bookings, not because another show needs me, but because my family needs me. There might be a time where I can just make a living off of wrestling. That is my goal. I don't want to be, I know my employers will hate it if they ever hear it, but I don't want to be in a 9-to-5 job for all my life. That's not my goal. My goal is to make wrestling my career. But I have to be pragmatic, and my family takes precedence until I know that I can spend all the time that they need with me, with them, and that I can still have time to do every single booking that's thrown my way and make a living off of it. That's been the only challenge at the moment that I can think of. The rest, yeah, you could call them challenges, but it's not the same, like increasing my cardio, learning new techniques and such, because that just comes as part of the game. That comes as part of the wrestling journey and experience. And I'm not calling them challenges because it's just something that needs to happen. It's, a challenge isn't even something you complain about. It's something that you have to think about 24/7 constantly. It's just comes naturally to me to want to better myself when it comes to wrestling. It's everything else around it that's the challenge, because that needs a lot more. Sounds bad when I say it needs a lot more thought. That's not to say that wrestling itself doesn't require a lot of it. It's just it comes a lot more easily to me, I think.
Absolutely. So one of the other things that really caught my eye when I was doing research for today is that on your TikTok channel, you started doing a day in the life of an anxious wrestler. What was the thought process behind that?
So the selfish part of me realized that vlogs actually get a lot more viewership But the actual reason, the main reason behind it is because I do suffer with chronic anxiety and depression. Oh,
Do you want to say goodnight?
sorry. Just have a little guess on. Good night. Go on. Good night.
Good night. Come on.
Come on. Get to bed,
Bye
Joe.
bye.
Bye bye. Night night. Longer. But yes. What was I saying? Could you repeat the question? Sorry.
So you started doing a day in the life vlog of an anxious wrestler.
So the actual reason I started doing it was because, like I said, chronic anxiety, chronic depression, but it was more to tackle the anxiety side of it because I'm wanting to try and force myself into more social interactions so that I can try and feel more comfortable about it. Because the way I'm just managing it at the moment is just masking how I actually feel about the situation and just going into it with smiles and happiness. And it is exhausting to do that in a lot of social situations. Not all. There are some where I just genuinely feel comfortable enough, but it's hard when you're having to battle that anxiety, especially. So the thinking behind it was, right, I'm doing something I know I'm going to enjoy, but I'm also interacting with people at the same time, making myself feel more comfortable in that moment. And it's led to some funny interactions, especially with Johan Hunt, where I'm constantly asking where his skills are. Some banter with between myself and the Broncos, and even at other shows like with Radu Bulat, Shawol the Great, and Sweeney, and also some more genuine moments, like with Aidan Sparks, Young Horace, and Owen Murdoch, and such. That was the main thinking behind it, because I'm never going to be able to defeat my chronic anxiety, but I'm going to do my utmost to try and mitigate it for myself and for the people around me.
Fantastic, mate. Fantastic. So, I've had a few people on from UKW itself. I've had Drew Ashley on, who was my first guest, and I've had Mustafa Khan on. Obviously, Mustafa being 18 foot tall, he's a big guy. One thing that was described, one thing that people described Mustafa as was like the uncle of the locker room. Would you say that that's a fair assessment of Mustafa?
It is absolutely a fair assessment. I would go further and not just say he's the uncle, because that could just describe any particular uncle. I'd say he's the uncle that you feel most comfortable talking to. He's the one that you go to with your problems when you feel like you can't talk to anyone else. And I've certainly been in that position where I've spoken to him. I try not to speak to too many people about my own problems, just because I don't like burdening others with my issues if I can help it. But I have spoken to him before, and we've had not too long ago, we actually had quite a heartfelt conversation. I'm not obviously going to reveal what we're talking about, but I was able to get things off my chest. He was able to get things off his chest about things that were happening, and it felt quite comfortable. And I know I'm not the first person to have that sort of conversation with him. He's just very easy to talk to. There's zero judgment, which is invaluable to someone who's having it rough. And last thing they want to have is the feeling of talking to someone and feeling like they're going to be judged for it. I think that's what dissuades a lot of people in our particular experiences and our particular stages of life from actually speaking to anyone, because of that sort of little voice at the back of our mind that tells us that. But with Khan, you don't get that. There is no judgment. He is there because he loves the game, and he appreciates everyone who's in it, because he understands that fundamentally we're all there for the same thing.
Absolutely brilliant, mate. So before we get into the mental health questions now, bud, I've got a question from our very good friend, Mr. Tommy Dillon from Instagram, who Tommy asks, how has your personal journey translated into the creation of your wrestling persona?
It's funny because I think Remus Caine and his duality could be translated into mental health, especially when you consider that both characters, both the good and the bad, the light and the dark, exist at the same time. It's not like they're separate entities; they are the same person. It's just whoever is more prevalent at the time is the one that shows the face. I think the manipulator Remus Caine could be that dark voice at the back of your mind that tells you all the awful things that you don't want to hear, but you're forced to hear. And it's every voice that tells you what's wrong with you, what people are thinking about you. A manipulating voice, which you could describe as what depression is. It's that thought at the back of your mind that always puts you down, always makes you second guess everything, always makes you put yourself in positions that you do not deserve to be in. And the other Remus Caine, the light, is just the guy or the lady who's just trying to get on with the life, who's just trying to move forward, one foot in front of the other, trying to ignore that voice. And sometimes the voice becomes too much and they take over and they hold the reins. And sometimes, no, the voice is not in control. I am in control. You're staying in your seat over there. I'm going to do this. And yes, I'm going to hear your voice for the rest of my days, but I'm not going to let you dictate how I feel about myself. I think without thinking about it up until recently, I hadn't thought that mental health had actually influenced my character, but I think it had. I just didn't realize it did. But I think that's how the two are connected, and it's just been something that's developed over time. That's the best I can describe it, really.
Fantastic, mate. Thank you so much, Tommy, for your question. But shout out to Tommy Dillon, guys. Make sure you go follow him on Instagram. Also, before we get into the mental health questions, just want to say, guys, if you just scan the QR code just above my head there, it is a link to Remus's Instagram page as well. Make sure you go give Remus a follow. It's an absolutely fantastic account. Also, make sure you go and follow him on TikTok as well. So, last question before we get into the mental health questions, Remus. Who is your dream opponent?
My dream opponent. In the indie circuit, I'm going to divide this into indie and pro. And when I say pro, I'm talking WWE, AEW level.
Mm-hmm.
In the indie circuit, my dream opponent that I want to face, that I want to go up against, is Martin Kirby. I've said this multiple times, I think, and the answer may have changed here and there, but ultimately I have a list of people that I want to face, and I've seen him work. I've been on the same shows as him, and he is a phenomenal wrestler. And I feel like going up against him would... Every wrestler I go up against, like I said, inspires me to be in a better wrestler, but I feel like he would be the next challenge in upping my game. Because Martin Kirby is someone who I feel it's not going to be long until he gets snatched up by one of the big companies. And I'll be surprised if he doesn't. He's talented as hell. And I want to face that wrestler before that happens. I want to face him before that happens. As for somebody actually who's made it to the top level, Joe Hendry. Now, I feel like a load of people also say the same thing, but I feel like I say it because I think our characters would just bounce off of each other so well, with his sort of meme status as I believe in Joe Hendry. And especially if it's heel Remus, he doesn't stand for stuff like that. Heel Remus will absolutely be annoyed by Joe Hendry just existing. He hates that kind of wrestler. But oh my god, I feel like it would be such an honor and a privilege to go up against both. And the answer has also changed for the pro wrestler as well. It was at one point John Moxley, because like I said, he was one of the big ones who inspired me, but I don't feel as gravitated towards him in where I am right now. And that's got nothing against John Moxley as a wrestler. I just don't feel that same pull to wanting to face him anymore. But that's the best answer I can give.
Awesome, mate. Fantastic. Thanks so much for that. So we're going to go into the mental health side of questions, guys. So obviously this may get a little uncomfortable for people. If you are suffering from mental health whatsoever, please reach out, guys. If you check out the description down below, I've got a few links to not only mental health societies, but also addiction and suicide prevention charities as well. Make sure you go give them a look as well if you are suffering. So, Remus, if you are okay, bud, we'll jump into the mental health questions.
Yes, that's fine.
I'm back in 2 seconds, guys. So, Remus, to kick us off, bud, can you share with us what is your biggest fear?
My biggest fear, I often put a lot of my fears to one side because I can't afford to focus on them. But if I would, like I said, you've sat me down, you've asked me, if I were to genuinely think about it, it is being alone. I've met so many wonderful people, both through wrestling and only just now outside of wrestling. It was where I met Jenny, where we then went on to create a family. We have Lily. It's where I've met some of my best friends, Tommy Dillon, Young Horace, Callum Jakester, Cliff Harrison. There's so many I could name, and that's just a small list. And my biggest fear is not having that. And it's an unreasonable fear because short of me doing something monstrous, I know I'm probably never going to lose that. I'm not going to lose that connection with them. But I have been up at night thinking about it, thinking about what it would be like. And every single time it terrifies me because it's not just in that moment. I then think of where it leads eventually. And being on deathbed and thinking there's not going to be anybody there by my side when that happens. But I'm confident when I say that I know I'm not losing that connection with the people around me anytime soon. And it just makes me even more thankful for the people that I have met and for the people who have added to my life. And I like to think that I try to add to theirs as much as I can as well.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. We really appreciate that. So, obviously, you mentioned that you suffer from chronic anxiety and depression. Can you share a bit about when you first started experiencing these struggles, please?
So this was actually during, I would say, my adolescence into early teen. Because I'd already. I won't say I've had the hardest upbringing. I had multiple loving parents. My dad in one corner, my mum in one, but they were separated.
Mhm.
My mum had gone to live with someone else and be with someone else. And my dad, obviously, was having to find his own place now with us,
Mhm.
and I was going backwards and forwards, and it felt like a struggle because he was going to and fro, and I think a part of me was thinking, was it my fault? Was it something I did? And looking back, I know it's not something I did, but it's something that stuck with me for a long time. And then I just felt so isolated because I'd also been bullied at school and I didn't think I could talk to anybody about it. Didn't think I could talk to my mum, didn't think I could talk to my dad about it because I thought my dad would just say, "You've got to be better than that," you know. And looking back, he wouldn't. He would have supported me, but I didn't think that. I had friends, but I just felt numb all the time and I couldn't really explain why. Um, the first time I knew something was wrong, um, I mentioned that I had I think I've got insomnia. It's very hard for me to sleep at times, and I had one of those nights. And I don't think my parents know about this. I don't think many of my family know about this particular incident. I distinctly remember things were getting pretty bad, or at least I thought they were. And I was up, and to try and ignore it, I was trying to watch my wrestling, but it just wasn't working. And context where we lived, there was a field not too far away from where I was. It was literally just a over the garden fence, and it was only 5 minutes to get to there from where I was.
Mhm.
And I remember still in my pajamas going down to the kitchen. I think it was well, I thought it was rat poison, but it could have also been bleach as well, and taking it with me. Um, Going to the field, it was clear spot where the tractors would move through with the tires, and sat there. I was just looking up at the sky, and I was contemplating just ending it there, just because I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to be feeling the way I was. Sorry if this is really heavy. What stopped me, and it's what stopped me since every attempt after that point, was just the thought of how people would feel and what I would be doing to them if I had gone through with it. And it was enough to stop me from continuing. I put the cap back on it and went back. I think I was out for maybe half an hour. It was about 3:45 when I got back in. Um, and I don't think anybody knows about that. Not many, at least. I've not told many people that story. That's where I knew that something was wrong, but I didn't know what to call it. I had zero understanding of mental health. I had zero understanding of what depression was or what anxiety was, because I was very much raised in the mindset, oh, everyone gets depressed. Oh, everyone
Mm.
feels. But this was something more. I just couldn't put a word to it at the time. That was my first. To answer your question, that's why I knew something was wrong.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I really do appreciate you sharing that. I know it's not an easy thing to talk about. As someone who has made numerous attempts on my life as well. So I really do appreciate you sharing that, Remus. Thank you. So Obviously, you mentioned that you were getting bullied at school. Was there any sort of like way that you were able to deal with this? Was there any support or whatsoever from teachers, parents, or what, anything like that?
There was only really support in the moment. Some of the teachers there were great. Actually, back in primary school, and it was something I tried to take with me. It's just unfortunately mental health got worse and worse from that point. Back in primary school, there was a teacher called Mrs. Neal, and back then, because I suffer, I not suffer, I have autism, and it made me unable to interact properly. I got very angry very quickly, and she taught me some brilliant coping methods and calming methods for dealing with situations, and I've carried them with me ever since. But in high school, it was a completely different monster. During my first year, I was in isolation numerous times because I'd gotten into fights with individuals who were constantly picking on me, constantly bullying me. And I don't think it helped with how I was feeling, because then I also felt like that I was doing something horrible in return. And yeah, fighting back, it's not the best thing in the world if you're throwing fists, but so much, it's a stereotype, but so often it's found that the one who gets bullied is also given the same punishment as the one who is bullying. And I think that is a failing of the school, not of the students. I've actually done my research into schools, and I could even go into a giant spiel about how schools are so poorly equipped to deal with both bullying and mental health in this day and age still. But that's a completely separate story. One I'm more than happy to delve into if you want me to. But the only thing that helped was sometimes the teachers would step in when they saw it happening, and when they realized I hadn't done anything. It's like, I remember there was this one student older than me, and he was just being an arse, a proper arse to everyone. And he would go around, he'd bully a lot of the younger kids, especially from year 7 and year 8. Saw me. I'd said something back because I was frustrated. I can't even remember the conversation fully. But he said, "Well, you're going to do something." So I'm not going to do anything. I'm just waiting for you to throw a first punch. Come on, do it. 1, 2, 3. Hit me 3 times before one of the teachers actually came in, pulled him away. And I was just stood there. I felt numb. I think I stopped caring at that point. And it was only until afterwards that when the teachers asked me if I was okay, I told them I wasn't. He's been bullying me ever since I got here. His brother's been bullying me ever since I got here. And in my mind, I was thinking, you were punishing me at the same time, and these guys only got a light amount of punishment. I'm not going to tell you more than that, because I know nothing's going to happen. He's going to get a slap on the wrist, and that's it. There's not going to be anything more. Why would I bother telling you anything else? But I think there are some schools out there that are trying. I'm not going to say every school isn't trying. There are some, but I feel like it's from their own efforts and not a coordinated effort. And I think if we put as much investment into helping to heal our nation as much as we do trying to hurt it, I think we would have this problem solved already, or at least we would be helping to mitigate this problem already. But it doesn't sell, does it? Oh, we're the country that helps. That doesn't sell. It's maybe a slightly nihilistic view, but I've come to accept that not everyone has everyone's best interest at heart.
Absolutely, mate. Could not agree with you any more than with what you said, buddy, if I'm honest. So, also, when you left school and you got into wrestling, did you find that wrestling was sort of like an escape from you having your problems with anxiety and depression sort of thing?
It was euphoric. That was the best word for it. It felt, maybe it's a bad way to compare it, but at the time it felt like as if I was taking, like, it's like your first time popping a pill or taking a drag from a cigarette. It was just like that rush, that feeling of actually being happy, because that's what wrestling does to me. It makes me happy every time I take a bump, every time I'm on the ropes, every time I exchange strikes backward and forward, every time I'm teching with someone or doing a promo. It makes me feel happy, and that euphoria has never really left. But I was also coming off of my second attempt, actually, because I was working at fast food before that for a while, and even during, I think I was actually McDonald's. Yeah, those guys aren't good. And I remember being bullied there as well, because a lot of the people I knew from high school also worked there. So that was brilliant, wasn't it? And I think I was coming off of the fact that I'd only just realized people were picking on me for something that I said. So sometimes I say to people, I'll see you later. I'll see you later. And I didn't realize that people were taking the mick out of me by going, see you later, see you later, mimicking what I was saying. And I didn't realize until a year in when I was working. I thought, you bunch of sods. You've been doing that all year, and you've been making me feel worse and worse about myself. And it was leading to confrontations outside of it as well, until eventually my mum confronted me in the kitchen because she saw me holding a knife, something along the lines of that, and said, you've been nothing but nasty when you come back. And what's up with you? What's up? And I think I just belted out to her, I don't want to be here anymore, okay? I want to kill myself. I just said it, and we were stunned. So then eventually, when I did get into wrestling, doing it properly, it felt like I could just leave all those worries behind, because I'd also gone through therapy at that point. I hadn't been put onto medication yet, but it felt like such a big rush to actually get into it. And I genuinely thought, maybe naively, that would never end, that I would just always feel like this, and that my mental health would never strike back.
Okay, so it's probably poor choice of words here, but it's funny that you mentioned that you were bullied at school, because I myself was also bullied at school. School did nothing about it. Left school, and then I also went to work at McDonald's myself as well, where a lot of people from school worked at McDonald's.
Well, that's so it's like you understand that particular issue.
Yeah, more than you know, my friend.
Yes, I'm sorry that happened to you.
I feel as though the bullying that happened in school kind of molded me into the person that I am today, sort of thing, because it's made me a lot more thick-skinned. So I do get quite a lot of slack from an older brother, but it's in a loving way, sort of thing. But I can take it a lot more than what I used to be able to. Obviously, you don't have to share, but which McDonald's did you used to work at, if you don't mind sharing?
So it was the Starefoot branch in Barnsley, just outside Asda. If anybody ever goes there, just don't. I could tell you all sorts of horror stories about that place, including people sleeping their way up to positions, but I'm not going to name names. They know who they are.
Yeah, I worked at Tankersley.
Oh, yeah, I know which one you're on
about. My actual manager was really good. He's one of my brother's close friends. It was the other members of the team that weren't so great. As you said, people sleeping their way to high positions. That quite a lot of that happened. Quite a lot of unpleasant things was happening sort of thing. But instead of talking about McDonald's because it'll make people hungry, let's talk more about you and mental health, mate. So, you mentioned that wrestling has been sort of like a euphoric relief for yourself. Have there been any specific challenges related to mental health that you face in wrestling? So I'll give you a couple of examples. Performance anxiety, pressure, travel, body imagery, and social media scrutiny. Did any of those kind of relate to yourself?
So I always feel anxious, and anxiety really doesn't help about how I view myself with my
Mhm.
body, and I do get anxiety before I go out into the ring to perform, but
Mhm.
I've come more to terms with that. The thing that affects me more is the social media aspect,
Mhm.
and I remember that it's actually what led me to my third attempt, because I was having it on really back and forth with some people, and it was just getting worse and worse, and I was just feeling properly. I hated myself at that point. Um, Social media is awful. It has its good moments, but overall, I think social media has done awful things to this planet and to the people on it. It allows people who probably shouldn't have a voice on a wider scale to have that voice and to spew vitriol and hurt at whoever they want just because they can. And pro wrestling is no different. Pro wrestling is unfortunately really subject to that sort of thing because unfortunately you get individuals who have more than just a little bit of ego come in and they feel like they can push other people around because that's just who they are. And obviously take the piss out of other people as well, just because they can, for no other reason. It just makes them feel better. Um, it it's what led me, and Cliff Harrison was there, and Jacob Reed was there. This was after a particular match. And people were already having a go at me, saying I wasn't that good of a wrestler and that I was awful and this, that, and the other. I'd just come off of a match with Case and Riley at UK Wrestling, and the performance I put on was absolute rubbish. It was the worst one I'd ever had. And it made me feel awful about who I was, what I was bringing to the table, about who I was. And I remember going to the train station and I was sort of listening to everyone. I wasn't really, I was just numb. Everything was just a blur around me. Got to the train station and I just found myself at the tracks, or at least looking onto the tracks. And then I realized that feeling was coming back. And I can't remember who. It was either Cliff or Jacob or both. They'd noticed where I was, asked me if I was okay, and I'd asked them to pull me away, keep me away from the tracks. Broke down, told Jen over the phone, made sure that Callum picked me up from the train station, which I was arriving, to make sure I was staying with someone at the time. That was Richard. But that could have been worse, and it has been worse for other people. We've heard horror stories about people taking their lives because of social media and what's been said upon it and the hurt and vitriol. And it's not just like, oh, what, they're getting upset because of a comment on Facebook or Instagram. It's not just one. It's never just one. One comment isn't enough to make you question everything about yourself. It's the constant stream of it, because then one person says it and then two people say it and then three people, four people, dozens upon dozens upon dozens of the same people telling you constantly. And it's like, oh, put your phone down. Unfortunately, not a lot of us can do that because we need it. It has become effectively, it has become another limb in our everyday arsenal. We can't just put it down. And when we see that notification, a part of us hopes that it's something good, that somebody's saying something good, or it's just, or it's just a bit of news. Nope. It's another comment from what's the face that they've been saying for months now. I could have been another one of those individuals. I mean, we've all heard about them. I think we could even bring up cases where somebody's taken their lives over something like this, and I could have been one of them. And I'm so thankful I wasn't. That I truly despise social media because of it. I use it, but I don't like it.
Absolutely, mate. So I've got to say, but I am really glad that you are here, and I'm really glad that you are here to share your story with us today. And I'm sure that anyone that's watching that does suffer and has suffered and will continue to suffer, unfortunately, will hopefully take what you say today in advisement, and hopefully it will help them.
I hope so too. And I want to address anybody who's watching, actually. I want, if you are going through something similar or you're going through something the same, if you feel like you can't open up to anyone else around you, know that you can open up to me. I've been there for other people when they have been through that battle, and it is so lonely. You genuinely feel like there's nobody you can turn to. Know that I am someone who, if you are in that moment, you can turn to me, because I've been there as well. We've all been there, and nobody ever deserves to feel like they're on their own. And even if you've only met in passing, if you've watched me in my matches or with the best of friends or family, I would be much happier knowing that someone opened up to me and that I could help them in however they needed, than to hear the name come up in the news, or to hear the name passed to me by someone I know about something terrible happening to them. Because every life on this planet deserves its chance to live and to flourish and to thrive. And if by talking to me that is allowed to happen, or even talking to Jim here, I'd much rather people do that than stay silent. It's hard. It's hard to open up. But that is the hardest step. And once you've done it, the rest is easier when you know that people are around to help you. And that's something else I'm thankful for, the amount of people who were there for me to make sure that I was okay.
Absolutely, bud. Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. I really do appreciate that. Hopefully, that message does reach someone that is struggling and does help them with their mental health. So, what kind of support system would you say that you rely on, both within and outside of wrestling? You've mentioned your wife, you mentioned a couple of friends. Is there anyone else that you can think of that you would say you would go to?
So, particularly for blokes, because I know that mental health for us is neglected at times. In fact, a lot of times. I would recommend the Andy Man's Club. Zero judgment. I've been there multiple times. I know some wrestlers who have been there as well. I'm not going to name the names, but I have been, and it is zero judgment. Everybody there is for the same reason, to get off their chest what they want to talk about. Now, I was lucky in that my mum used to be in the NHS, and she has campaigned a lot for mental health for the people around her and for myself. She was instrumental in helping me get the access I needed to mental health services in the NHS, and it's a shame, because I'm fortunate in that end. I know not everyone has that, especially someone so vehemently helping you to get to that position, because too often, and I think you'll probably have experienced this yourself. You go to the GP, you go to the doctors, you tell them how you're feeling, you tell them about the thoughts you're having because you built up the courage to actually go out and tell them, and then they say, "Oh, we'll just put you on some medication. Oh, you'll be fine. It'll pass." Okay, well, this conversation hasn't helped at all, but I have been in that position for somebody else when they're going through it, and I remember my mum and Jenny and the other people around me advocating for me. So I was there in that moment advocating for them, telling the doctor, telling the GP how serious this actually is and that it needs to be taken seriously. They need to have access to mental health services. They need to have access to the medication that they need. Whatever resources they can get, they need it. And I think with that, it was taken more seriously, like it was for me. Ultimately, it is a group effort, whether it's your family or your friends. If you've got somebody there to help advocate for you, and it's horrible that we even need to do that, because then that means that unless somebody else is speaking on our behalf, our mental health is never going to be taken seriously by our institutions. But that's what we need to do to be able to get the help we need. And if that's what we need to do, then that's what I encourage every single person to do, is to stand up together and to tell people this is what we need. We will settle for nothing less, because we are talking about a human's life here. Talking about a man or a woman, child, elderly person's life, and cannot afford to get anything less than what they need. So I get quite passionate about it because it's something that has affected a lot of my family, and not just myself. And it's affected a lot of people around me, and they all share the same story about how they were not taken seriously. And it wasn't without people being around them to help was things actually getting sorted. Because once you get it, it's the greatest thing in the world, because it genuinely helps. When the mental health service at its best does help. It helped me with the talking therapy, with the medication. I take fluoxetine now, and I know that people take sertraline and such. But that's what we need to do to get to that point. And until it gets easier, where doctors and GPs and other people around us don't take mental health lightly, that's what we need to do. That's my experience.
Absolutely, my friend. I'm so glad that you brought up Andy's Man Club. Something else that we have in common. I used to be a facilitator for Andy's Man Club. I recently started going to the gym as well and bought myself some new gym gear. I found a website called Explosive Ape, who are actually in collaboration with Andy's Man Club, where they have this
cool.
lovely shirt.
I love that.
Which is It's Okay to Talk, which is also the motto of Andy's Man Club, but I've also incorporated that into my channel's motto as well, of It's Okay to Talk. Like you say, Andy's Man Club, for anyone that doesn't know what Andy's Man Club is a men's mental health organisation. Basically just in the same format as what myself and Remus are doing. It is just guys getting together, talking about their problems, offering support, offering just sort of like a brotherhood, which I think is what men need. I found Andy's Man Club a couple of years ago when I made one of my numerous attempts, and I'm not ashamed to say that Andy's Man Club saved my life and has made my life a lot better. They are the reason why I'm able to do this. They are the reason why I am able to open up about my mental health. Like Remus said, it's a fantastic organisation. I've now got lifelong friends. I've got people that I can turn to whenever I am struggling. I have put a link to Andy's Man Club in the description below, so make sure that you check that out, guys. For any guys that are watching that want to get involved with Andy's Man Club, whether that is going to a session or whatever it is, if you go to andysmanclub.co.uk, put in your postcode, it will show you your closest available sessions. The sessions are every single Monday, except for bank holidays, from 7 p.m. while 9 p.m. Let's get everyone talking more about mental health, especially men. And remember, guys, it is okay to talk. So I really do appreciate you plugging that, Remus. Thank you so much, mate.
It's all good. They helped me just as much. I know that if I want to talk to somebody with zero judgment, I can always go back to their sessions, and I encourage everyone else to do the same.
Exactly, my friend. I could not say it better than what you have just said. So, continuing on from that, how do you believe that the professional wrestling industry as a whole can better support its performers' mental well-being?
It's a tricky one because I can only really reflect on the indie wrestling that I'm a part of, because I can't speak for the higher up companies. I could tell that, oh, they need mental health programs, but I don't know what they've got in the backstage behind the cameras and such. They could have them, they couldn't. I think just being able to, like how Mustafa Khan is just knowing you're able to talk to one another and actually be able to tell each other how you are without judgment. And it's hard because ultimately there are going to be people who just do not care. And those people are some of the most vile individuals you'll ever come across. We've all met them. However, I have met more people who do care, who do raise their eyes when something's said and will want to help you. Maybe something that could be put into place for companies in the long term is just an officer of sorts, a mental well-being officer. Just someone who, if you feel like you can't talk to the wrestlers in general, or the boss is not available to talk to, you can talk to the officer in question. You can tell them about what's happening. Obviously their job would be then to guide you to the resources that you need to use, but it would also be something where they would check up on you, just make sure you're all right when you do turn up to shows, when you're on the same events that they are, just to make sure that things are okay. Obviously that's quite something to set up, but it's something I know that when I bring NSAW back into the fold, or in whatever form it's going to be, that's something I am going to be putting in place, because I feel like that would help to prevent someone going down a dark route. It's my only suggestion, because it's hard to be able to institute something like that, because it takes time, it takes resources, it takes somebody willing to be in that position to listen to these often dark, not stories, these dark moments. And that's also that takes a mental toll. But if the position was up today at another company and somebody needs to fill it, I probably would fill it myself. That's something that I'd want to do. So then I know that somebody, that, like I said, somebody could come to me or to whoever it is and be able to get things off the chest. That's all I can suggest, really.
Absolutely, my friend. So, coming up to the last question of the mental health side before we start to wrap up, bud. What role would you say professional wrestling has played in your overall mental health journey? Is it been a source of strength? Is it been a bit of a challenge? Or has it been a bit of both?
Overall, it has been a massive source of strength, mostly because it's something I love doing. It's something I will do up until my body gives out. that's how much it means to me and my mental health. The people I've met, the experiences I've had. Because going off of the third attempt, what I didn't tell you is that it actually led to, like I said, my greatest match. Because Rob Galbraith, the guy who runs Firestar, he learned about what happened and he checked up on me. And part of it was because he wanted to check to see if I was okay to do the show the next day. It was literally that same show for the no ropes match, which was going to be the main event. So he had a vested interest in making sure I was okay. I was honest, told him how I was, what had happened, and he said, I don't think you should be on your own at the moment. I think you need something to validate you. I'm going to come down to you in Barnsley. I'm going to pick you up. I'm going to drive you all the way to Ripondon, so at least you're around people you know you're safe with. I think the people I didn't tell knew that something was up. And the people who did know, first thing they did, all of them, was hug me, make sure I was okay, especially Horace. We were planning the match. We did the match. And it helped me feel more validated about myself and that I was as good as people, as a lot of other people saying I am. I'm not this failure. I'm not someone who just sucks at life and has nothing good going for them. It validated me in every way that I needed. That is what wrestling has done for me. Yeah, it's had its moments where it's pushed back and given me some awful moments. Especially, like I said, with the social media side of things and just with certain relationships breaking down and certain decisions being made. But I've found over time those things, yeah, they're a part of it, but they pale in comparison to all the good that's happened, all the positive moments, all the moments I can look back on with pride and happiness, because it gave me a lot of what I have now. It gave me confidence. It gave me my family, it gave me my love of both my family and my and wrestling. It gave me my friends that I have, that I'm going to have till for as long as I can keep them. It's given me so much, and I have a feeling it's only going to keep on giving. There's going to be dark times. There's going to be people I come across who just don't deserve my my mental health and my time and my energy. But it's been so much more the case that everyone I've met has been kind, friendly, easy to talk to, someone who doesn't judge, which has made me feel very comfortable. I know I could pick up my phone, message any one of the people I know about something that's going on, and they would take the time out of the day to listen and to make sure I was all right. And I like to think that they could do the same with me. It is the gift that keeps on giving, and I'm not letting go of this gift.
Absolutely, mate. I could not put it better myself. So as we start to wind down, mate, the last couple of questions are a bit more light-hearted, just because obviously this type of thing can get quite deep. So, what do you want your legacy to be when you retire?
I want it to be something that can inspire the next generation or the future generations of wrestlers, or someone who's not even a wrestler yet, who is on the fence about becoming a wrestler, to see someone give their all to professional wrestling, to see someone love it and be loved by it, to feel like it is something magical that, yeah, it has its moments. It has its moments of darkness, I'll call it. But this person was able to keep rising above it, was able to keep delivering, able to keep giving to the business, to the fans, to themselves, and is able to inspire those around him to better themselves, whether it's in wrestling or outside of wrestling. To know that I'm a wrestler who takes mental health seriously, that you can have battles and challenges going into professional wrestling and you can still prevail and you can still live your life to its fullest. And not just mental health. You can have your battles, whether it's because you're autistic, whether it's because of your sexuality. Because funnily enough, I tick quite a few boxes. That it doesn't matter who you are. Everyone is more than capable of being able to reach where they want to be, regardless of who they are, in spite of what others would tell them. That is the legacy I want to leave behind. As Remus Caine, the madman, the redeemed, who has seen everything that wrestling has to offer and still smiles regardless.
Fantastic, mate. So what would you say are your aspirations and goals within professional wrestling for 2026?
2026, I'm going to be earning my spot as a not just any champion. I'm going to aim for the highest titles possible in the companies I'm at. More so I can inspire everyone else around me. So I can show them that putting in the time, the effort, the energy, it takes a while, but it is worth it. And it doesn't just have to be applied to wrestling. It can be applied to anything you do in life. And that is one of my goals. The other goal is to just enter in as many different match stipulations as possible because I love a good stipulation. I've been in all sorts, and there's ones out there that I've not been in yet. I'm going to be ticking some off the box. Next week, I'm in a last man standing match, and then the month after, I'm in a straitjacket match. So that's two more off the box, ticked off the box. But it's to just keep pushing myself to become better than I was the year before that, and the year before that, and the year before that. That is the one consistent goal for every year. If you ask me that the same question again for 2027, the exact same answer. 2028, exact same answer.
Brilliant, mate. So last question before we sign off. I've given this question to quite a few of my guests, and when I have given it, they've given quite good reactions. So I'm hoping for a decent reaction from myself. Last question is, buddy, who is on your Mount Rushmore of wrestlers?
That means I have to choose 5, doesn't it?
4.
Or is it 4? Oh god, that makes it even
4.
harder. Bray Wyatt's up there. Bray Wyatt is definitely up there. John Cena. And I'm not. It's not just because I've got my eyes starry-eyed over the retirement tour. I've always been a big fan of him, even when others have hated him as a character. Because he's another one of my big inspirations, Randy Orton. I think he's someone who has shown you can evolve as a wrestler over time and show yourself to be better each time. Even now in his later stages, he's still evolving. As for the 4th, oh god, I could give that to anyone. There's so many I could put in that position. But if I were to say, I'm probably going to look at from the new generation of wrestler. for this one. The generation that's coming up and is making the name for themselves in the big scenes. Just who? God, again, so many. I'm going to say Obafemi. I'm going to say Obafemi. The others have established themselves in their respective fields, but it's been such a long time since we've had someone who has come in just purely a powerhouse build, who is there. His character is try to beat me. You won't, but you can try. I will beat you down. I will power you down. There is nothing you can do about it. And his character is so simple in that regard, yet it has given him such credibility, such a huge amount of aura. It's given this sense of dread back to professional wrestling that I think it has sorely lacked. Just this big, imposing individual that is the mountain for a younger, or for an underdog wrestler to come up and try and defeat. You could argue Brock Lesnar, but I don't like Brock Lesnar. I've never liked Brock Lesnar. He's great. He's a great wrestler, but I don't like him. I think Obafemi does that role better. And I actually dare say he could be WWE's actual Goldberg in that regard. As someone you could just leave to defend a title for over 1,000 days and nobody would probably bat their eyelid at that. They would find it believable, regardless of who you put him up against. There's other names I could have put up there, but those are the four that, when I think about it, that's what I put there.
Absolutely, mate. Fantastic. I really do appreciate that. So that is it, guys. That is it for today's episode of The Unseen Battles. I want to say a massive thank you to Remus Caine for joining me this evening. I really do appreciate it, my friend. So, sign us off, mate. I always let the guest sign us out. If there's anything you want to plug, anything you want to say, anything you want to get off your chest, feel free, mate. It's entirely up to you.
So if you aren't already following Wrestle Wellbeing, what are you doing? Get your thumb out of the pocket, click that follow them, do it now. I'll see you right there. Do it. There you go. Well done. As for me, I have Remus Caine on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok. It's pretty easy to find me. I am not very creative when it comes to innovative names on social media. This is usually where you can keep up with me. I'm making debuts in all sorts of companies and returning to all sorts. UK Wrestling, Blackheart Wrestling, 5-Star Championship Wrestling, Classic British Wrestling, Super Pro, Kmart, numerous others that hopefully I'll be getting into soon. Just also Andy Man's Club. Make sure to check whatever mental health battles you are having at the moment. There is someone out there who will listen to you and they will help you, regardless of whether it's in a professional setting or in a personal setting. Don't feel like you're on your own. It's the hardest feeling to get over, but you are not on your own, and you never will be. You have people who care about you, who love you, who want to see you safe, and the world will miss you if you are gone. Don't ever feel like the world would not care, because it will, and everyone around you will care.
Fantastic, mate. Thank you so much for joining us, guys, and we'll see you next time on The Unseen Battles.